It's not about having one or two more new hip bars, okay? It's about having arts and culture. It's about having affordable living. It's about having affordable rental housing for when you get out of college.
My name is Tristan Wood, senior reporter and host here at WFSU Public Media, and welcome to Candidate Convos, a series of one-on-one chats with candidates for elected office here in Leon County ahead of this year's election cycle. On this episode, I spoke with David O'Keefe. He's a current Leon County Commissioner, and he's being challenged by David Hawkins. I spoke with O'Keefe about his background, why he's seeking re-election, and his thoughts on some of the most pressing issues facing Leon County. So, Commissioner, you're running for re-election. Talk a little bit about your background before you were elected to the commission, a little bit about, some of what you think are your biggest accomplishments in this first term for you.
Sure. So start with my background. I'm a certified public accountant, and before I ran for office, I was chief financial officer for a very good public media organization here and in the region. And I worked in government auditing and government nonprofit finance and administration. And then I finally decided that there was not enough being done urgently to do big reform, to put big impacts into affordable housing, to improving our community welfare, bringing new ideas to Leon County. And so that's what led me to run for office. And I figured if I get hired for the position, it's what I get to do. And if not, I'll update my resume, and I'm honored to have been hired. In the first term, the things I'm most excited about having made progress on is affordable housing, on blocking some urban sprawling development on protected canopy roads, and a lot of getting into constituent services is also, it's only important to that one household or family, but it's neat to get to help people quickly and in an easy way.
So why are you running for another term?
Because this is the best job I've ever had. And I ran because I wanted to make an impact. That's why I chose local office. And I've been able to have more of an impact for more people through my work than any position I've had before. And I'd like to continue doing that.
Gotcha. What is the biggest issue you're running on, if you had to say?
It continues to be affordable housing and affordable rental housing. However, I think we have to add transparency, accountability, and building trust in local public government and maintaining trust.
Gotcha. You've been pretty outspoken about some issues lately on the commission. You were one of the loudest voices about the ongoing KOKA situation. Give us your thoughts on that and what you're thinking about as the discussions are going to continue with that.
Sure. For the KOKA situation, I was one of the loudest voices because we have so many other issues going on and challenges that are coming from agreements that we need to try to mend with other governments, from rules coming down from the state and the federal government impinging on our local home rule and our Leon County values. And KOKA is working. It's working incredibly effectively. It's been working incredibly effectively. And I think it's a distraction and an unnecessary change to a program that works effectively. And we have, as they say, bigger fish to fry right now. And we really have to focus on the things that are either not doing enough to help our neighbors or not helping our neighbors at all. And KOKA doesn't have problems like that. We need to keep what works and focus on what we have to fix.
Gotcha. I know in a lot of the conversations with that, there was a lot of discussion about the wins that Visit Tallahassee has had recently with a lot of the big events that it helped promote. And I know there was talk about wanting to put more metrics on evaluating the returns of what KOKA is doing. What do you make of that aspect of the conversation?
Sure. The way Visit Tallahassee measures their returns are different than the way KOKA measures their returns. And you'll note in the meeting, I don't believe we got a full presentation from KOKA. We only got a presentation from Visit Tallahassee. And so you have to have both and. Most of our tourist money goes to recruiting big events. And those big events are one snapshot in time. You know exactly how many tickets were sold. You know exactly what your marketing budget was and the number of heads and beds, if you will, for that event. But our local community does not attract big events and does not have, if you will, supplemental arts and culture activities for people to do for here to stay the weekend if you don't have these smaller, consistent local events that are attracting visitors on their own, like Chain of Parks Art Festival and Word of South, but also giving people something to do on the night before and the night after a big event they're traveling here. And so It's one of these things about thinking about a whole issue or whole part of our community and realizing that there are layers in supporting those.
Yeah, that brings me to the next question, because I think it transitions pretty well. That, for several years now, this topic of economic growth in Leon County has been at the top of a lot of people's minds. It seems like there's not a day that goes by that there's not a Tallahassee Democrat op-ed about it. There's not a viral post on social media talking about it. What do you think economic growth in Leon County should look like, and how do you think the county can help facilitate it?
So we can help facilitate it by reforming and modifying how Office of Economic Vitality works, which is the office by which Blueprint, which is a joint of the city and the county, and the city and the county operate. Currently, it is somewhat resistant to oversight in management, and they focus mainly on big one-time wins, getting Amazon once every 10 years or something like that, which is good on its own. But I want us to do community-first economic development. What I mean by that is you can create the same jobs and economic activity, but fill a gap in a service that's a business that we need. People are struggling to find affordable childcare or early learning providers. Part of that is they're incredibly expensive, but part of that is because there's not enough of those businesses in Tallahassee. People struggle to find primary care doctors, specialists, mental health providers, fresh groceries in certain areas of town. We should be putting a portion of our economic development, just like trying to incubate the next manufacturing, we can incubate those businesses that create jobs and increase the number of service providers for those necessary activities. I know it's exciting for an economic development professional to stand in front of an Amazon and take that win, but I think it mean a lot more to people if they stand in front of 5 daycares or early learning providers and 5 new primary care doctors and 10 more mental health providers, because those are businesses, and we need to start treating them like that.
Gotcha. And a subset of that conversation is, we have Florida State University, Florida A&M University, and TSC, right?
And Lively Technical College.
And Lively Technical College, absolutely. You have all these academic institutions that are training the next generation of the people that are going to feed those businesses, but proportionally, a lot of them leave town after they graduate. What do you think can be done at the county to help attract younger people to stay, live, and work in Leon County?
We have to focus on building the community people want to live in. It's not about having 1 or 2 more new hip bars, okay? It's about having arts and culture. It's about having affordable living. It's about having affordable rental housing for when you get out of college. It's about raising a family being affordable. It's about having good multimodal public transportation, all of these things that this generation values. This generation comes out of college, and if they can pay the same rent in Atlanta that they pay in Tallahassee, and they get all of the community assets and cool things that people visit Atlanta for, like multimodal and bike path transportation, unique local arts and culture, good infrastructure that's not just for cars driving to the suburbs, they will stay here. But we're competing against that. And we have to realize that instead of just focusing on getting new people to come here, we have to make it better for people who are here to stay here and then attract people.
Yeah, these questions have been the topic of conversation for a while. Why do you think it keeps coming up? What do you think's keeping it from going in those directions?
Because our local government and our elected officials overseeing our local government have not implemented the change. Period. And that's why the first meeting I had when I got elected, you sit down with briefings with heads of every agency you work with. And I sat down with Keith Bowers and the folks at OEV, and they gave me a big binder, and they showed me all the rules and the strategic initiatives and all that. And I immediately started asking about this community-first economic development. And the answer is it's not in our 5-year plan. It's not the Mag Lab, it's not football, it's not manufacturing. And so, and it's not health manufacturing. And so I continue to bring it up. And I think it's hard for people who are in that profession to hear new ideas that haven't been tried. And it's a resistance to new ideas, unfortunately.
Okay. That you mentioned this a little bit in your intro, but affordable housing is a growing concern for people across Leon County. Property values increasing and rent increasing. It might not be as felt as strongly up here as it is in areas like South Florida, but it's still an important issue here in the county. What do you think the county's role is in dealing with that, and if reelected, what would you want to champion to help
Sure.
with that issue?
It is an issue for the over 14,000 families in Leon County alone that cannot get affordable housing. And that is 50% of their income or extreme housing burden at 30% of their income. That's considered affordable. Anyone listening, can you do the math? Is your rent and utilities or mortgage utilities less than 30% of your income? I doubt it. And that's what affordable is classified as. And 50% or more is what a lot of people are facing. That's extreme unaffordability. I want to continue focusing on affordable rental housing because that's the programs we have only really started to do. Historically, we have home ownership programs, which we need to continue and are important. But the difference between being unhoused and being under a roof is not whether you have a down payment, it's whether you can afford rent. And we have a serious gap in building enough affordable rental units and missing middle units. That's why some of the wins I'm most proud of this first term are for affordable housing.
Gotcha. Certainly a partner in dealing with those issues, that would be the city of Tallahassee. And as you know, there's a big ballot initiative coming up when you're likely going to be on. Is it, I forget off the top of my head, is it August or is it November that the consolidation question is going to be on the ballot?
I believe those are on November.
In November. So when that is on the ballot, how do you think voters should decide?
Voters should decide how they want to. I'll carry out what the voters decide. Personally, and why I voted not to put it on the ballot is I don't think it's a good idea. I don't like the language that was chosen by my colleagues that says instead of "Are you interested in consolidating?" it says "Are you interested in consolidation under the authority of the county?" And so I really don't think it's a good idea. All the evidence and history and all the studies on consolidation, especially consolidation in Florida, there's never been a successful consolidation since two that occurred in the 1960s. And the ones that have occurred elsewhere never result in cost savings because theoretically consolidating has cost savings if you were starting from scratch and creating a new government. But if you're combining two organizations that have 100-year histories, then you ultimately don't do that. The example that our county administrator gave to point this out was if you had to consolidate, you'd probably consolidate the sheriff's office and the police department, right? The police department pay is much higher than the sheriff's office pay. So to match, you're going to have to match. Are you going to bring the police officers' pay down or are you going to bring the sheriff's deputies' pay up? And so there's a lot of details, and I think the trigger for this being brought up is current major disagreements between our two governments. But I think, unfortunately, those are driven by personalities in a short snapshot of time over the life of our governments. And I don't want us to be making rash generational changes to the structure of our government. Those are just a few of the reasons I don't think we should be considering consolidation right now.
Gotcha. On that point a little bit more, there was fights between the city and the county over this fire service fee issue.
There's disagreements. Nobody throw blows,
that's
like physical
good
blows.
Point.
So there's not fights.
That could just be journalistic flourish
Correct.
on my part. But the current Tallahassee City Commission, has these two factions that are constantly arguing, not fighting, not going blows like you say, but constantly arguing on the dais and on social media. Who or what do you blame for those fights between the two local government agencies and within the Tallahassee City Commission?
Yeah. So the county has a reputation, for the most part, of getting along and working together. And part of that is not publicly criticizing people that we're already having difficulty getting along with. And that's the practice I'm going to keep. It's not what I want to do, but everything I think about is how is what I'm saying and do going to help me get what's best for my community. And part of the issue is personalities, unfortunately. And I think what people should look at is don't just look at a meeting and say, oh, all these people don't agree and aren't getting along, so all of them are wrong. Listen, some people are pushing specific initiatives and specific ideas, and some are resisting those or pushing other ideas. And I ask voters to look at who is treating their job most professionally, like a coworker would, even if you didn't like them or get along with them, because you know you have a job to do. And thoughtfully consider who you vote to elect or reelect based on who is going to treat this like a job where you have to get along with your coworkers, even if you don't like them personally?
Understood. With that, go ahead.
I'll also say as an aside, because we have time.
Yeah, we do have time.
It's very interesting because I sit there and at blueprint meetings especially, and I think voters are so upset with some of the votes that are being made, and it's wild because the voters put them there. Like, think about that. There are these 5 commissioners on the city, and granted, they're different election dates, right? And those may be different by who turns out, but there's no districts. The same precincts voted in the 3 that voted in the 2.
Gotcha. So yeah, you're pointing that, and you said you don't want to point fingers. Do you think that those 3 commissioners on the city commission has led to a lot of those policies you think are unpopular?
Yes. That's what I've observed. And when I go into those meetings, I think, what are the points and what are the issues, and how can I best bring everyone to have an open mind to try to get us to the right condition? Because even though it's frustrating when, say, affordable housing changes failed at Blueprint after hundreds and hundreds of people showed up. And one thing I do is I go home and I remind myself, everyone up there was legally voted into office. And so that's who the voters have picked, and that's who gets to vote how they want to vote. And I'm who voters picked for my district, and I get to vote how I think they want me to vote. And so while I may disagree and find it unprofessional on how some people treat their work, ultimately the voters put every one of us here, and that's where the responsibility stands.
Gotcha. Transitioning a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned in your first term?
The biggest lesson is voters or pundits or political consultants and certain news and punditry, I guess if you call it, treats what a commissioner says different than what an average citizen says when it comes to things not related to the commission. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is when I'm going to speak or say something about a non-commission issue, right? It's not something before the commission. It's a current event or something like that. I think of my voice in that case as equal to every one of the 290,000 people in Leon County, because it's just I'm a citizen with an equal voice on an issue that is not something related that'll be on the dais. And I figure when I speak on something that's going to be on the dais, I have to consider I've been put in a position with more authority than the average person by those voters. And the reality is that's not how everyone reacts. Now, it's not how voters react, I think, pretty normally, like I was having a conversation with them across the table without microphones. But it can become a distraction from just being able to focus on the work. And so that's one of the biggest things is filling that role. I think the other surprise is how much institutional resistance there is to new ideas. Sometimes I feel like even colleagues I agree with, which is most of my colleagues when you combine both bodies, sort of bristle at the idea of trying something new, even if another community has done it. And it's an interesting phenomenon that I've been observing.
Understood. What's your final pitch to voters?
My final pitch to voters is in District 5 is we have very smart, very aware voters. Look at what I've done in the past 3, almost 4 years now. I came to you 4 years ago, someone you'd never heard of, and told you what I would do, what I believe in, and you had to go on that, and the majority of voters trusted me on that. I believe I've carried out exactly that. Hopefully you know me more based on what I've done in office, and my hope is that I've earned even more of your trust to continue serving District 5 in a way that you believe in. That's my final pitch. And we spoke about a lot of issues specific to current hot topics, right? But one thing I want to make sure is that part of being a commissioner and treating this as my job, as a job, is there are issues that the news can't drive what we focus on. I'm always focusing on protecting our environment. I'm always focusing on directing and incentivizing growth where it makes sense in major corridors with roadways and infrastructure. And I'm always driving for how we can find out our community's overall health and well-being can be improved. And those are things that don't make the news because there's not disagreement, but I'm always working on.
Gotcha. I know there's been a lot of the headlines have been about disagreement.
Yeah.
How do you think local government, how do you think it could be moved past that after this election cycle?
I want to say a lot of local government is already past it. It's just not what's covered in the news. If you were to come and sit in on a meeting and read the agenda, you would see a lot of things that pass in consent, that pass, 7-0 in the county commission, and you see things that pass 4-1 or 5-0 in the city commission. But if you don't look for those, you'll miss them. And so I want to be clear, local government, especially Leon County government, which has one of the lowest budgets per capita of any county in Florida, is doing the work that is the boring for most, but the exciting work to us of providing government services and infrastructure that create an opportunity for everyone to succeed. It's like an accounting office. I tell people, if you notice your accounting office, they've messed up. It's just supposed to work and you don't think about it. The more you notice your local government, they might have messed up because they should just be keeping roads going, keeping water from flooding, and keeping development where it works for the community.
Yeah, on development, I know we talked about economic growth and direction. As I've brought other candidates in here, one of the things that I've heard is this question about suburban sprawl or urban infill. I know you're not just representing, Tallahassee, and that might be a question more relevant for Tallahassee commissioners, but what do you make about that type of direction that the city should have and the city and county should have in terms of development?
I think we do have a pretty strong, comparatively, environmental protection rules, but there are too many waivers and it's not as strong as it should be. And it is enforced a little differently when it's county versus city. So I think we should be focusing on making the rules and the permitting and the development codes more advantageous for builders to invest in interior properties that are ready for redevelopment, where there's buses and other businesses and infrastructure. For example, we shouldn't just be seeing development where the land is the cheapest for someone to own the most cheapest land out on the edge of town. That's not the best urban planning strategy, which is unfortunately how the market goes if you don't regulate it. That's why I put in a strategic initiative that the county started working on last year to research how we can adjust the rules and codes to make it more likely for people to redevelop empty commercial and retail spaces like strip malls and malls that have gone empty, think Appalachia Parkway, the old Toys R Us, to make it worth their while to tear down and build affordable housing or multi-use development in there that builds more of a community. People can still build and live in suburbs, but people are desperate to replace old, decrepit, vacant buildings in town with great new development.
Gotcha. Final question. You have a longtime friend from out of town who's come to visit on a Saturday when there's not an FSU or FAMU game day.
It's the only day they could afford a hotel.
True, absolutely. What would you take them to see, do, or eat in Leon County while they are here?
All right. So many choices. To eat, we're going to an Indian restaurant. We're either going to Essence of India or the new place next to Big Lots. I think it's called Masala Market or something like that. We are taking them to one of our parks or waterways. We're taking them to either Appalachia Regional Park, which I'm recently super proud of because I'm showing them the new dog park we built. And I'm taking them to, it's going to be what they want. It's going to be what they want to do. If they want to hike or kayak or something like that, I'm taking them to the Piney Z Lafayette Trails. And if they just want to watch TV and stuff, we're going to eat. And we're going to go to Cool Beans if we can. We're going to go to Cafe de Martin. And we're going to go home and watch TV. And they did not pay me for any of those answers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Tristan.